There's an Instagram group that I created with me, my older son, and his buddies. These are like 18-year-olds, right? They're seeing some video that was on Instagram that talked about, cost segregation or depreciation of real estate, buying a rental property with zero down, apartment complex versus single family. They're sending me in there and they're asking like really smart questions, but they've got a vast knowledge of wanting to understand. I look back when I was 18, there was no such thing as Instagram, but there wasn't like a tool, there wasn't like a source to go to for that data. My most exciting thing about First Home IQ is now there's a specific resource, there's a specific lane, there's a specific house that they can go to gather all that data. Hey guys, Wally Elibiary. All right, so what is 24/7 mindset? Most times when you hear 24/7, you're thinking what? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just grinding, hustling. I learned over time, a 24-year career in mortgage and multiple other businesses that I own is, unfortunately, you'll get burnt out. I became an absent father, I became an absent husband, and I became a poor business leader because I was trying to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to build a business, maintain a business. When I learned how to work smarter, not just harder, by doing things the best way it could be done, instead of just simply doing my best, I learned how to work only 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, while I got paid from the business residually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can do the same. Welcome to the show. All right, so welcome, Kristen Meeser.
Misery. Misery. Sounds too close to misery.
Meeser. I love it. It's funny. We've got a mutual friend, Dave Savage, and he calls me Wally Elderberry instead of Wally Elibiary. So my last name is, I just tell people, just call me Wally. This easy peasy, right?
Yeah. That sounds good.
Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on the 24/7 Mindset Show. Super cool news on our end so far that I'm super excited to share. Dave Savage actually wrote the foreword for the book 24/7 Mindset. And actually this week is hit #1 on Amazon, #1 on Barnes & Noble. And we've got, crossing fingers, but we've got a solid chance of being #1 on USA Today and then the Wall Street Journal. So super excited about that. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you kind of sharing your time with us.
Of course. Congratulations. That's so exciting. And yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I got into working in mortgage and real estate about 10 years ago. And before that, I was a social worker. So I worked primarily in immigrant populations and homeless youth and wanted to do more education, but I built a company called Cultural Outreach and did that for about 10 years. And about a year ago, I had sold Cultural Outreach and I was doing some work in tech and I've done a lot of research with Millennial and Gen Z home buyers over the last few years. But I was really trying to decide what was next in my life and how I wanted to, make an impact. And Dave Savage and I had been talking for a long time about doing some kind of nonprofit or education work. And it really all came together. I had a moment where I had a gas leak in my house and I didn't know it. So I was really, really sick and I was just like miserable, couldn't eat anything, couldn't hardly have any energy. But this was the only thing I had energy to do, was to look at this nonprofit and start working on it. And so it made me realize like, this is something to pay attention to. And thankfully the gas leak was resolved and I have lots more energy now. But so that's what I've been working on over the last year. It's First Home IQ, a nonprofit focused on educating the next generation of consumers through financial literacy education and homebuyer education. So that's what I'm spending my time on these days.
Well, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But I think it's funny. I think definitely God puts us in positions where we have to be able to have time to do it. And I would have never written my book at all if I did not rupture my Achilles in October of last year. So being stuck on the couch, I totally know what you mean of like you've got time and it's a huge distraction. So when you said about the gas leak and all that, it's definitely cool to see, sometimes us entrepreneurs just like yourself, we've got to be forced into be able to slow down.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing when we slow down.
That's so true. Yeah, you and me both were on the couch last October. And yeah, it was really cool to kind of realize I could only spend my time doing something that I had enough energy to do. And yeah, I had a lot of time. I quit my job I was working on, and I was like, well, let's go in on this then, and
Yeah.
really, go for what my body is saying yes to.
Yeah. Well, I just think I mean, being a social worker, clearly I've never been a social worker, but you have to have a huge heart. You have to have grace, and you have to think of just, pouring your love and care in other people. And when I think of first home IQ, that's what I think of. I think of, hey, how do you empower the next generation or even the current generation to really increase their financial IQ? But how did that kind of come about? Takes a little bit of like, was it on a back of a kitchen napkin that you and Dave were kind of mapping this out, or is it like how did was it a whiteboard? How did all the vision come about?
Yeah, gosh, well, I don't remember much because I was being poisoned at the time. But yeah, I think it was through a lot of conversations. Dave's been a mentor and friend of mine for at least a decade now, and we'd been talking about like this big need, and of course, everyone talks about this need in financial literacy, and but we were both in kind of interesting times where we could spend a little bit more time on this, and I think we just, yeah, at some conferences, spent some time together, like kind of drafting this out, and then looped in Todd Bookspan. And what we really came to was this is an opportunity for the industry to come together. Like, yes, we're getting this started, and yes, I'm managing the operations around this, but people are taking ownership over bringing
Yeah.
this to their communities. And I think that's what we got really excited about is like, there's, this industry is incredible with so many like really big hearted people too who not only want to see their communities improved through financial literacy, but also it's part of their work too of building their brand. And so it aligns really well. And we decided, of course, with Dave, he's like let's do it and figure it out as we go. And so we've been kind of, building the plane as we take off. And it's been exciting. I think just recently we launched a first home IQ score where we've had people support putting together 25 questions that measures your home buyer literacy, basically. And we've measured now, it's been 500 people that have taken the quiz. 300 of those were carefully selected across the country. And the scores are really bad. I mean, it's like 57% is the average score of taking this basic homebuyer literacy kind of quiz. And so there's a lot of work to do. And I think we both just were passionate about it and found other people in the industry like yourself who are passionate about giving to this and making it happen.
I remember the first time I heard about it, I think it was a Saturday. I was blowing up you and Dave via text, and I'm like the least technical savvy person in the world. I'm like, how do I sign up? I go to this website, and then what am I doing? And now, when I heard about it, I was 100% in, and
Yeah.
it's a totally cool community that you've built with where it's a lot of professionals from the sake of the mortgage side, from the sake of the CPAs that are involved, the financial advisors that are involved, the family will attorneys that are involved, the insurance agents that are involved, and you're in the real estate agents that are involved, and you've built a phenomenal community for a great cause, right?
Yeah.
So tell the viewers a little bit about the ambassador point of view, and like what does that look like, and how can those of us that want to give back, where do we go, and like what does that look like?
Yeah, so the ambassador program right now, we have kind of a beta group of ambassadors that you are a part of. That's 26 people. We're supposed to be 25, but we went to 26, and they're helping us create the program itself. So, but we have 80 people that are on a wait list right now, and we're going to launch that in December. But basically, ambassadors are donating either a right now it's $100 per loan, but that's a suggested donation. And then we are doing, they're supporting and giving feedback on things, or helping to build out like a playbook for setting up education presentations in schools or something like that, or realtor, a partnership presentation. But you can find out more about that at firsthomeIQ.com/ambassadors, and get on that wait list if you're interested or just want to learn more. And we'll be, like I said, I think launching the next round, or at least opening this up in December or January, so that we have a little bit more of a program set. Like, this initial group is kind of like, yeah, we don't know what this program looks like, and we're crafting it. So now it's a lot more put together. Like, we've got some of these playbooks, we've got presentation materials, the community and circle that we're using. We're having good conversations and sharing social media content and strategy to build your brand as someone who is, involved in your community. So those are some of the things that are making up that ambassador program. And then more broadly, it's also, these are leaders who are giving into First Home IQ to support anyone who wants to volunteer. And, we have ambassadors that are reviewing some of the presentation materials, and that way other people can use this, and we can expand that mission more broadly.
I think it's brilliant because, so I've got two boys. Braden is 18 and Alexander is 16. And it's mostly Braden's friends, but my 18-year-old, we'll get together, we'll play golf, but it's usually grab lunch afterwards. But it's super cool. Like, these 18-year-olds are asking me these questions about, hey, how do you buy a rental property? How do you analyze a rental property? And, the last time we played golf last weekend, we're talking about, okay, what is a P&L? What is a balance sheet? What is a personal financial statement? What does a line of credit mean? And it's just super duper cool to see like the curiosity, and see the types of questions they ask, but like, where does it go after that? Right. And I think what I love so much about First Home IQ is, like, there's a lot of education that we can surround this for the community, but there's also a path for them to go to actually be owning a home. So,
yeah, I'm really excited about we're creating a certification program that is, your First Home IQ certified, where it takes you from basic financial literacy, like savings, budgeting, that kind of stuff, financial planning, all the way through credit and debt management, how to buy a home and when, how to maintain that home. And I think it's really important that we get that whole picture, and we drip it out maybe when they're ready for it. Your 16-year-old probably isn't ready to think about when or how to buy a home, maybe. But I think being able to show that, take people by the hand and kind of walk them through that, I think is important. And so many people, as you are very well aware of, when they're ready to buy a home, they don't know any of this other stuff that would have been really helpful around basic financial literacy. So I think that's an important part of this. Oh, the other thing that I'm really excited about that I think you would really like is the money mindset piece. Oh. So we have a whole, I think it's going to be a course, but right now we have a presentation that's just on your relationship to money, and your mindset around money, and understanding how that impacts the way that you relate to it later in life, the decisions you make, the habits you form. So your early memories around money, or how your parents handled money, that's going to influence you. And so helping people understand that narrative so they can control their narrative moving forward and change their behaviors, I think is a really important piece of this too. Yeah.
Do you know who Cody Hardridge is, by chance?
No.
He's a loan officer out of Oklahoma City. He's been a great friend and mentor for years. And he's one thing that he said that he did is he does not pay his kids allowance. He pays them commissions. And just that simple mindset shift. And he's got adult young adult kids also. And just that mindset shift of like, hey, if you're the highest paid earners are not salary employees, they're commission or sales based types of roles. And if you can teach your kids, especially teenagers, that you can do a task and get paid as a one-time fee. That's a commission, right? Or if you sell a product, whatever it is. And it's pretty cool how he's learned to raise his kids. And now I got taught definitely at a young age, not a young age. I probably learned it in my mid to late 30s of starting to buy rental properties. And I remember my Braden was like 11 at the time, and he comes to me and he wants to invest in buying real estate with me. And he only had like $200 saved out, which was birthday money. But he started door knocking our neighborhood for like 6 weeks and raised another $400. Well, the $600 that he saved and what he was door knocking, he was like, hey, I'll take out your trash for $10. I will clean all the leaves in your yard for, $10, whatever it was. And he did all these odds and ends, mowing yards, cleaning cars, da da da. And he did all these odds and ends and saved another $400. So he's got $600 total. Well, it's pretty cool because that $600 equaled to about 10% of a rental property that I bought at that time. And then it's really impressive how every single month he gets his residual income from that rental property, but his responsibility to earn that residual income is he's got to take the rent rolls and he's got to create it into a P&L and a balance statement for the property. So like, I just think it's the whole mindset, not only of like, youth, but also the parents. If parents can understand it, they can teach their kids it. If the parents don't understand it, there's like a negative chance that the kids will ever get it from anywhere sources from there. Are you kind of seeing the same out there?
That is so cool. I want to use that example because what I want to do eventually, our tactics here are direct to consumer online stuff. And then we have through volunteers in their community doing presentations. And then we have school curriculum. But I think there should be a fourth here down the road that is parents, like where we're really targeting parents specifically and helping parents understand how to teach this stuff to their kids too. Because like you said, I mean, that should be or is often the number one place they're learning, but what are they learning? And I think there's a lot of research that shows that they're not learning from their parents, and then they're of course not learning from their schools either. So they're then very confused later in life.
I mean, it's really TikTok teaching them. It's
totally
funny. Like there's an Instagram group that I created with me, my older son, and his buddies. And there's probably like 6 or 7 of like teenage kids in there. And the message through the group that they messaged me, and these are like 18-year-olds, right? They're seeing some video that was on Instagram that talked about, cost segregation or depreciation of real estate, or how, buying a rental property with zero down, or a apartment complex versus single family. They're sending me in there and they're asking like really smart questions. I think I was just so impressed by like the intelligence of their questions, but they've got a vast knowledge of wanting to understand. But, I look back when I was 18, there was no such thing as Instagram, but there wasn't like a tool, there wasn't like a source to go to for that data. But what I was talking to Savage about was my most exciting thing about First Time IQ is now there's a specific resource, there's a specific lane, there's a specific house that they can go to like to gather all that data. So
that is so cool that you have that. I would love to, if you hear, questions that are interesting or get posts that are interesting, I would love for you to just pass them my way because I'm keeping like a store, like a saved folder or whatever of different memes that I see and that I think are reflecting the market. And then we're working on eventually, I'd love to have like a Gen Z panel of some sort where we're really hearing from the market. I've done a lot of research with Gen Z and millennials to hear from them through surveys, their sentiment. And there's just like so much distrust in the market, and it decreases with Gen Z significantly. There's distrust in lenders and in financial institutions, and so yeah, they're turning to peers, and they're turning to
Yeah.
social media influencers, which a lot of times are really helpful, but I think it's really overwhelming. And so, this is like, I think, a really huge challenge for professionals today is like, how do you overcome that? Not only distrust, but despair. Like, I don't know if you're seeing that through, they may feel more hope because they're connected to you and have more information, but the kind of content I see and questions and comments I get from peers are just like, oh, this is totally out of reach for me. We missed the mark. And I think that that's a lot of the messages that are on social media too. So.
I think it is, but also it comes down to I mean, it comes down to parents. I mean, I just think I just look back of like I struggled in school and I struggled in just keeping up with grades and stuff. But one of the books that really kind of set me straight was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert
Mhm.
Kiyosaki. And I got a chance to meet him a few years back, but Rich Dad Poor Dad really helped me understand just because I grew up in a family that had a low financial IQ,
Mhm.
that didn't mean that I can't go find a mentor that's got a high
Mhm.
financial IQ that I can go learn from. And what I was talking to Bookspan about, Todd, was that it's super cool that you've got a group of rich dads or rich moms that even though if a individual grew up with a poor dad or a poor mom, then they can actually go learn from them and focus on actually growing wealth.
Oh, that's so true. I love that. I really want eventually, because we haven't started marketing this to consumers or students yet, but the idea would be that they could drop in questions, and
Mhm.
like you have that group in Instagram, that we have experts of, yeah, rich dads and moms, they are available
Yeah.
to respond to that, and give their perspective. And also, I think it's important. Well, we'll have our core content, that's like that, here's our philosophy on debt management and all these things. I think it's important for them to hear other philosophies and understand that there's going to be different approaches to some of these things. And you can learn from that too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when a curious question on my end, you said that the average score is 57 on those tests.
Mhm.
What's like one question that people are consistently getting wrong that really surprised you?
I don't know that it surprised me, but it's the one that stands out the most to me, that the majority of people answered either you need 10% or you need 20% down, to buy a home. So, I
Yeah.
mean, the down payment question, I think, is not surprising to people, that's something they get wrong all the time. But that was a really, yeah, it's just like you see it like, oh yeah, majority of people do not know this, and also, I can't remember what the percentage was. We do have a full report of this on our website. So on that Get My Score
Nice.
page, First Home IQ / Get My Score, at the bottom, there's a report with specific data points, of like what were highlighted. But it was around, the percentage of closing costs. It was kind of all over the place. Like, people didn't really know how much you need to bring to the table,
Yeah.
um, or what closing meant. So,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the just basics that are really key to going through the process were all out of whack.
It's definitely a shock for sure. Um, but do you think that's the case because the lack of focus or lack of because I don't think it's lack of exposure.
Mm,
I think people today are exposed to more knowledge than we've ever been, right?
yeah.
Um, but I think there's like an abundance or too much of knowledge that it just sounds like all like noise.
Yeah, I think there's the overexposure for sure. And I mean, I think a lot of people tell me too that start to step into the market, start to even just learn some things, and they get really overwhelmed and they step back out. And I know for me, I mean, it's funny to me that I ended up in this space because financial literacy or financial education is so stressful to me. And it's like, but I think that's what drove me is I realized the impact that had on my life. Like when I started a business, it totally changed my life. And I realized, oh, money has this kind of impact. I was a mess before that. I was like, emotionally a mess, and having the way that money impacted me. But I think a lot of people like myself have so much stress and anxiety around money. Even just my experience as a poor social worker, it looking at my bank account, I think I'll never make enough to be able to look at my bank account and it not bring stress to me, But so for a lot of people, they're going to social media or they go anywhere to, they go to a YouTube channel specifically to learn about financial literacy, but then they get overwhelmed and they feel that stress and anxiety. They may have even just absorbed this from their parents because they grew up in a household that didn't have much or whatever. And so I think it's real. That's why I think it comes down to also understanding your own relationship to money and how do we provide this education in a way that they can learn and grow without feeling that overwhelm. And that's part of, First Home IQ's mission is to provide that, be that like source, but also deliver it in a way that is engaging and they can look at things really quickly and learn quickly, engage with quizzes, that kind of stuff,
Well, I just think what I like so much about First Home IQ is the simplicity and the ease of understanding. And what I mean by that is, like, unfortunately, in our industry in mortgage, you get a ton of loan officers that just try to overly use big words or, APR, like initials or DTI or like stuff like that, that just, it turns off consumers. But the whole loan officer's goal is that the more I confuse them, the more they know that they need me. But the challenge is it's backfiring. And the more like there's a great quote that said, I dumbed down my lyrics to double my dollars. And I think once I really understood that is the simpler I speak, the more it lands. The more complicated I speak or the more difficult that I speak, the less it lands. So there's no point of trying to explain something to someone, make it super complicated just to make yourself look good. And in turn, it never lands with them.
Yeah, gosh, that's so true. And I mean, to that point, it is interesting being in the industry. You forget how much you forget, like you take for granted, I think, some of that vocabulary. And even I was really surprised, one of those points on that score, people, I can't remember the percentage, but there was a large amount of people that didn't know what FICO was. And we asked, what's the major credit scoring model? And it's like FICO. And then we had bogus other things like Credit Max, Credit Plus, or whatever. And a bunch of people thought it was Credit Max. so it's interesting to, we take for granted some of these really basic things. And then to your point earlier, you get overwhelmed. You hear DTI and FICO and all these things. And you're like, I don't know. I'm going to watch some cute raccoon videos instead.
For sure. Well, so the viewers out there right now are listening to this podcast, and it's, like I said, it's loan officers, it's CPAs, it's financial advisors, it's family will attorneys, it's insurance agents, and also realtors. So we call that our 6-lane highway in the 24/7 Mindset Academy. Now, so there's 6 different industries. Speak from the heart for me for a minute here. Like, if you're speaking to those industry leaders, what do you want to share with them in closing about First Home IQ, and how can they get involved? How can they be part of the journey?
Well, I would love for anyone that's listening to join the community first and foremost. If you go to firsthomeIQ.com, you can click on industry professionals, and there's a unique link there for you to sign up. And that will show you there's part of this community that's just for industry professionals, where we're sharing social media content, that First Home IQ score, those types of things that we drop, new presentations. And that would be a really great place to start, because from there we'll share updates and and new ways to be involved. But I would love for that. And I think the other thing is just, as you connect with the next generation, leading with your authenticity and being really, that's part of First Home IQ's mission, is to just support people in having those kinds of conversations. So.
Yeah, well, I think you've got a huge heart. You see it you see it in your voice when you're sharing. And I love just the mission that you, Dave, and Todd have with First Time IQ. And so I'm lucky to be an ambassador, and I don't take that opportunity lightly. So thank you so much for allowing me to be an ambassador. It's something that I truly believe in. And if there's anything you feel that I can ever do to help, just please do not hesitate to let me know. But if you're listening to this call and you're in any industry whatsoever and you want to give back, and the ability not only to give back, but give back by making a difference, by increasing the financial IQ of our future guys and girls out there, just please get involved. And in the bio, in the link, we'll have the First Time IQ website address. So let's get as many people to sign up and to really believe in the cause.
Great. Thank you so much. The other thing I wanted to mention is, just as you're getting involved, sharing this with your colleagues, with anyone around you, getting feedback. We are in those early stages. And so your voice is how we're growing and how we're changing things. So I really appreciate right now we have a lot of ambassadors who are from the mortgage space. And so anyone from all these other streams, it would be really helpful to get your perspective and expand our education in those areas as well. So, but yeah, Wally, I'm so happy. We are thrilled to have you as an ambassador, and just so grateful to have you involved.
I'm the fortunate one. So thank you for allowing me to make a difference in y'all's cause. So I appreciate it so much, Kristen.
Great. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you soon. Thank you. So thank you so much for listening today. It means a lot you took time out of your day. I don't take that lightly. Understand very clearly that you're very busy. With that being said, if you want to continue your journey and learn more about 24/7 Mindset, if you're on Facebook, which I'm going to guess you are, then go to 24/7 Mindset on Facebook and join the private community. I do coaching tips on there on a daily basis, but from scripts on there to systems on there, models, and the ability to be able to grow and scale a business while you have a quality of life. Hope to see you there.